Hockey Talk Show on a Monday. It is Monday already. Good to be here with you. Thanks for joining us on the program. Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Get those comments in. Thumbs up. Let me know that you're watching. And, of course, make sure you like and subscribe. Follow on Facebook. Don't just like the page. Follow it so you get the notifications for when we go live. You don't miss a thing. And on YouTube, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. That is super important. If you're downloading this and listening to it on Stitcher, iTunes, the TuneIn Radio app, or what did I forget? Stitcher, Spotify, our latest and greatest. Spotify, thanks so much for that. We had a through-the-roof stream. The Islanders show we did a couple of nights ago. I don't know if it was Friday or Thursday of last week. Holy cow, did that one go through the roof. Lots of people on Long Island streaming the Hockey Talk Show, which is super cool to see. I don't know why that is. Perhaps it's because most Islander fans are just flat out desperate for some decent hockey coverage. I think that might be a part of it. But nonetheless, we're super excited about the fact that you guys are finding the show and that we have a nice little audience here that we're growing to talk some hockey every weekday night right around 5 o'clock. That seems to be the old starting time, except for nights like tonight when I have a client calling me to ask me questions just before the show starts. Most of them don't know when the Hockey Talk Show is live, so there's that. Lots to talk about, of course. The main focus of the episode tonight will be on Erik Karlsson. That has reared its ugly head once again. As we talked, I think, on Friday's show that Pierre Dorion was running his mouth again, saying that, look, anybody can be traded, and, we might be, we're not looking to trade Erik, but we might be trading Erik, and all that sort of sass and garbage. We talked about that at length. And now, of course, as is the case with sports and with media, when one guy says something, we got to go and get the reaction of somebody else. No longer is this only appropriate behavior with the Real Housewives. This is how the world of sports is today. When the general manager or the coach says something, there's the inevitable follow-up with the player, which sometimes could be a couple of days later. And in our case, lasted all throughout the weekend. So we'll hear from Erik Karlsson. We'll read his comments to see what he has to say about the potential trade. And what's interesting about this is you don't even have to be an Erik Karlsson fan or a Sens fan to be affected by this, because literally 30 other teams, if you're possibly a fan of, could be acquiring Erik Karlsson at the deadline. So we really do need to talk about it. It's my thought and my belief, again, that he won't go before the deadline, but it's entirely possible. Anything is really possible when you look at it, especially in the National Hockey League with the way things are today. So we got a lot to talk about as far as Erik Karlsson goes. And could your team be the team that will be acquiring him? Oilers are making some off-ice moves, and we're going to talk about that. Where is Joshua Hosang? Speaking of the New York Islanders and the New York Islander fans, what the hell is going on with Joshua Hosang? Why is he not being called up? Why is he still down in Bridgeport? And do the Islanders really need him moving forward? My opinion may have changed over the course of this season so far, and that's all due to the play of Matthew Barzal. So, and now Anthony Beauvillier. So we'll get into that a little bit here on the Hockey Talk Show tonight. Plus, the Colorado Avalanche are just flying right now. One of the hottest teams in the National Hockey League right now. In fact, when you look at the standings for the league right now, there's a lot of anomalies going on. That's pretty surprising. And we're going to get into some of them, including the teams that are up at the top of the league so far this year, and the aforementioned Colorado Avalanche, who are just doing phenomenal right now. I'm telling you, I'm blown away by the success of the Colorado Avalanche and what they've been able to do over the last 10 games, and really over the last 20 games since the holidays. I would say they have really just caught fire and have absolutely taken off. So we'll touch base a little bit with the Colorado Avalanche and their play as of late. There's a couple of interesting things to note in there, and we will get to that. By the way, just a quick commentary, because I do always like to update you on what's going on. Good subscription numbers on YouTube. It takes a little longer to grow on YouTube than it does on Facebook. But every day we're getting new and new fans, and I think that's because you guys are sharing and hitting the thumbs up on the pages there. So definitely keep that up. Again, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, Shoot a comment below so I know you're here. Tell me what your favorite team is, how often you watch the show, whatever you want to talk about. It's a fair game on the Hockey Talk Show for tonight. Let's start with the government shutdown. Let's start with something topical. How has the government shutdown affected hockey? This is one outside of the NHL story that we're going to talk about for this evening. But believe it or not, government shutdowns affect military. And we kind of forget about it, but military is the Air Force Academy, Air Force College, and Air Force has a hockey team forced to cancel their game against Sacred Heart over the weekend. That's right. United States government goes into a shutdown over the weekend. I think 3 days it lasted. By the way, I think they came to an agreement already, and they'll be out of that. And probably by the time you guys are downloading this on the podcast, we're probably well past it by now. Yeah, on Friday when the government shut down, Air Force hockey was forced to stop playing. Scheduled to host Sacred Heart on Friday night. The teams played on Thursday night with Sacred Heart winning 2-1. And Friday night's game was postponed until further notice. Air Force is playing Niagara this coming weekend. And we are waiting to see. Obviously, it looks like now we'll be getting back to that. What's interesting about this, though, is the Air Force was shut down. Army, not. So the Army athletics continued, whereas the Air Force hockey team had to cancel a game. This, according to the College Hockey News. I thought that was kind of interesting. A couple other little quick hits here just to get you into the show with some hockey news today. For the Penguins fans, Matt Murray practiced this afternoon for the first time since the passing of his father. The Penguins announced that Murray left the road trip in California to go home to Thunder Bay, Ontario, after his father James died last Tuesday. He hasn't played since January 7th. Murray said after practice, quote, hockey definitely took a back seat for a couple of days, but when you're out there, it's kind of a sanctuary. It's unclear whether Murray will be ready to play. Penguins' next game is against the Carolina Hurricanes Tuesday night, so we'll look to see if Mike Sullivan puts old number 30 back between the pipes. Injury front here, Andre Palat out 6 to 8 weeks for the Tampa Bay Lightning with a lower body injury. Starting to see some injuries pile up here for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Don't tell their standings. They wouldn't know. But as far as the team goes, 77 out, now 18 out, 6 to 8 weeks with a lower body injury. We'll see how the Tampa Bay Lightning fare here. Again, it's not like anybody's knocking them out of the playoffs whatsoever, but we'll see if they struggle a little bit. By the way, it's January 22nd. The All-Star game is this weekend. It's Monday, Friday. The All-Star game commences with the skills competition, or is it Saturday? I think it's Friday. I think Friday is the skill competition. They have like a Saturday is like usually the rookie game, which doesn't get too much publicity. And then Saturday would be the regular game, right? Is it still that format? We'll look into it. But I know that, essentially we head into the All-Star weekend this weekend, and we still don't know who's going to be replacing Victor Hedman for the Metropolitan Division. Not the Metro Division, the Atlantic Division. So we'll have to wait and see. I think everybody else is pretty much solidified. I don't know if any of the other All-Stars have been injured. I know that Victor Hedman is one of the bigger ones, so we'll wait to see who gets named as the replacement. I don't know what's taking so long, but we'll wait and see who is named as the replacement. When does Kid Rock sing the national anthem? No, he's singing he's the halftime, second period intermission. I don't know, second game intermission. I don't know how it works now with all the different games. He'll be playing during the All-Star game at some point. There is still reaction to the whole Kid Rock thing. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I know there's a lot of delicate things in the world right now, political things, but even the people that are like, yeah, I don't mind that guy too much. Like, they're just getting crucified right now. And I don't get it. And honestly, I don't, again, Kid Rock and I don't really see eye to eye on a lot of political things from what I could tell. But I have no problem with him performing at the game. I think he's a really talented musician. I do. And I know, like, he even got criticized for not having a hit in the last, 20 years. But, again, it's the National Hockey League. It's not It ain't the Grammys, right? Which, by the way, and can I also mention this? I think the Grammys are the same night. Grammys are the same night as the All-Star Game. So you're really not getting anybody. Everybody's going to the Grammys. You know why Kid Rock was available? Because he's not nominated for the Grammys. Because if you had a chance of being nominated, you blocked this song. By the way, look at the touring schedule of every major band. Look at all of them. Every one of them has tonight off. Like bands don't book shows around Grammy weekend. They don't do it. You know, because they're all hoping to get in there. Hoping for a stray puck to hit the kid. I'm not, you know, I'm not wishing bad against Kid Rock. Again, like I admitted to you on this show, I saw him a long time ago. You know, when political climates were different. I was never a huge fan. I just, you know, happened upon some comp tickets working in radio. And I went and I thought he was great. He was really, really wildly entertaining. I don't know. And again, I don't agree with all his politics. You know, I'm mad that he doesn't, oppose the president on everything. I mean, I don't know. I guess so. Maybe with some things, yes, some things not. Here's the weird thing. Like, I haven't had a chance to go down the checklist of where I sit politically and where Kid Rock does. I don't know where he is on all the issues, you know? So I don't know. I couldn't possibly get upset at anything. Maybe we do see eye to eye on a bunch of different things that he doesn't get a lot of press for. I don't know. I don't think it should matter. I don't think it should matter. Now, if you just think Kid Rock stinks and you want a better artist, okay, can't argue with that. But you got to see some of the articles. And I see this, by the way, because the radio show that I host here on Long Island is very music driven. And we cover a lot of the way we cover hockey here is the way we cover music there. Very, very. It's not like a classic rock station where we play Leonard Skinner every 5 minutes and nobody says peep. Like we literally delve in and talk about music. It's a lot of fun to be a part of. And I see the articles like people are so upset about the Kid Rock thing. And I just don't get it. Marc Savard, that it might have been a while since you heard that name because it's been a while since he's played. But Marc Savard officially announced his retirement today, and a pretty bizarre little story. He's 40 years old. He had 706 points over 807 games. Hell of a career this guy was having. It's a shame. With the Rangers, the Flames, the Thrashers, and the Boston Bruins. He played his final game with the Bruins on January 22nd, 2011. So just actually 7 years to the day. 7 years to the day. He hasn't played since then because of concussion-related symptoms. Now you're wondering, why did he retire today? I think a couple of things. I think a couple of reasons. One, it's the anniversary of the last game he played. I think he wants to put a little exclamation point on the fact that he was forced out of the game due to a concussion. And two, his contract expired, well, a little while ago, 16 and 17, right? Where are we in now? The 17-18 season. So last year. So his contract expired last year. So literally, this was the first year that he wasn't under contract. And I guess he waited till the 22nd to make it on the anniversary of his last game. On Savard's Twitter account, he wrote, "This is not an easy thing for me to put into words, but I feel as though I'm ready for the next chapter in my life to begin." Also, last but not least, my health is the best I've seen in a very long time. I'm grateful for that. I think the biggest thing that I'm happy where in my life, I'm happy where I am in my life. I'm in the healthiest I've been in a long time. I didn't want to wait any longer or any more. My contract is up and I wanted to get it out there, head off in a different direction and pursue a coaching career. I think it's interesting that he waited for the anniversary of his last game because I think it puts an exclamation point on his career in which he could have played. I mean, here's a guy that was almost a point a game player in the National Hockey League and had to leave because of injury. And you got to think about what his career could have been had he been able to stay all this time. Like the precautions that the league is taking now, which is great. And this is not a criticism of the league, but I think his retiring 7 years to the day that he played his last game is an exclamation point in the sense of look at what I could have done Because how could you talk about this and not bring up concussions is the point. And it's look at what I could have done if I had another 7 years under my belt. So why doesn't he retire any sooner? He gives up on the money. Contract's guaranteed. So you don't retire, keep getting paid. So wait till the contract is up and then retire. Obviously, he waited till the contract was up and then waited till he hit the anniversary of his passing. Thumbs up on the Facebook page if you guys are watching over there. Appreciate that as always. Let me know what you want to talk about, what you want to discuss on the Hockey Talk Show today. We're kind of just making our way around with some of the news of the day today. And one of the news stories, which I found particularly interesting, was that Mark Savard was hanging it up. Oilers fans, are things really getting better for you over there? You wouldn't think that hiring an Oilers legend would. Oilander was Brendan Burke and I were tweeting. Brendan Burke is the play-by-play guy for the Islanders. We were tweeting because one night he said Oilander instead of Islander. He did exactly what I just did, which was put the two together, which there's plenty of those from Ryan Smith on down. Doug Waite, plenty of guys who played for both. But anyway, I digress off of Oilander. You wouldn't think that hiring an Oilers legend would be a bad thing. But at the time of Paul Coffey's hiring today, it really kind of is. Because when you look, and there was a little bit of backlash for Peter Chiarelli, who announced this move, but they've hired Paul Coffey to come in as their new skills development coach. In announcing the hiring of the Hall of Fame to the position of skills development coach, a lot of people questioned, is this the old Oilers boys club in Edmonton? Because that was the problem, right? In fact, that's why Todd McLellan and Peter Chiarelli kind of got hired, because they had nothing to do with the franchise, right? Nothing. And that was kind of the good thing, because when you looked at the laundry list of people that were there with the franchise, it was too much with the Oilers nostalgia. Like, I think the organization for a long time was worried more about harkening back to their heydays as opposed to just hiring the best person, you know? And every time it was like, look at this Oiler great who's going to be here now and is going to do this and this and this. And then it would never happen. I mean, we all know who the biggest problem was. It was Kevin Lowe. And I respect Kevin. And I think he's a fine person and a good hockey guy to have around. Obviously, he still exists in the organization somewhat, but his role has been greatly subdued, which it should be. Because as manager, as coach, you know, they gave him almost every single job to have in the organization, and he blew all of them. I've never seen a guy get so many opportunities with so much failure to be attached to it. It upset me, and I'm not an Oilers fan. I just don't know why he was continued to give opportunities like that. At some point, you got to just hire the best hockey guy. And that's kind of what happened before Chiarelli was brought in here, right? Everybody, even everybody in Oiler country was kind of like, enough. Like, just get the best hockey guy you can get. So Peter Chiarelli spoke to this today when he was asked by Mark Spector of Sportsnet, saying, quote, I know prior to me coming here, there was talk about all the old Oilers. This is a collaborative decision by myself and Todd McLellan. We're not old Oilers. So the question is, why now? Well, actually, Paul Coffey wasn't really available until now. He was still coaching his little son, Christian, over as a 14-year-old over in Toronto. And he's finally gotten to the point, I guess, in their little Bantam AAA season that he's become available more now. So I don't think he'll be living in well, I don't know what the situation is. Actually, I don't know where Paul is living these days. But it sounds like he'll be sort of spreading his time between his son and that team and the Oilers. But he's going to come in here and help the Oilers out a little bit. I like this move greatly because I do like Paul Coffey. Out of all of that old Oilers team, I like Glenn Anderson, I like Mark Messier, but I really love Paul Coffey. Like, I love Paul Coffey down to the bitter end of Paul Coffey. What was he? He was in Detroit, I think, right? Did he retire with Detroit? I'll have to look this up now. I think Paul Coffey went out with Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, or am I thinking of somebody else? I got to look this up now, where Paul played. I'll tell you why. And my love for Paul Coffey is so dumb and simple. He was just the fastest guy ever. I just loved his speed. He would go, you talk about Erik Karlsson today. We talk about Nick Leddy. We talk about, it was Detroit. Thanks, Liz. We talk about all the great Letang, all the great puck moving defensemen, and they're all great, but I don't know if they're as good as Paul Coffey was. Paul Coffey was outstanding. Outside of just watching him in the game, this is going to be nerdy, but if you played NHL 94 and on, like, you had to acquire Paul Coffey because he was just lightning fast. Lightning fast. Let me see. He played for the Oilers, the Penguins, of course. I know with his time with the Kings, the Red Wings, the Whalers, the Flyers, the Blackhawks. Shut up. He was with the Carolina Hurricanes at one point, too. Was he really? It's that weird time where you remember a player in one spot. I think I remember him most with the Oilers, and I remember him for a good chunk of time with the Penguins, and I want to say the Kings. He was with the Kings for a while. No, he was with the Kings for 2 years only. See, time is a mother. He was with the Whalers in 96, 97. Let's follow his whole damn career. Obviously started with Edmonton. In 79, left the Oil in 87, 88 season. He was with the Pens for 5 years, right? Reunited with he was already reunited with Gretzky, right? In LA, 91, 92, 92, 93 season. 4 years with the Wings. I remember those times. I don't really remember the Whalers. I have to Google Hartford Whalers. Paul Coffey now. I don't remember him with the Flyers either. Flyers 96, 97, 97, 98. With the Blackhawks 98, 99 season. He only played 10 games. And then with the Hurricanes for 44. He was with the Hurricanes for 99, 2000, playing 69 games. Scoring 40 points. God, how old was he then? And then in the 2000-2001 season, he played 18 games with the Bruins, which was his last team. I thought it was Detroit. The Bruins were his last team for 18 games. And then I'm guessing he just hung it up. Signed July 13, 2000 with the Bruins. December 98, traded to Carolina by Chicago for Nelson Emerson. Remember Nelson Emerson? I just love Paul Coffey. I think he helps the Edmonton Oilers. I don't know exactly if anybody, Oilers could have hired Jesus Christ at this point. Could have hired Jesus Christ, Mohammed, and Muhammad. And I still don't know if their skill would improve. But you know what? Closest thing to a god in hockey. Paul Coffey. So he is a defensive god. We'll see what he can do. I wouldn't be afraid. I wouldn't get into the backlash too much if I was an Oilers fan. I'd be excited that Paul Coffey. By the way, he's a great hockey guy. He really is. Talks the game really well. Gretzky always gives him a ton of credit, and I would feel pretty excited if I was a Oilers fan on what's going on with the Edmonton Oilers there. Good show rolling along. Thanks for the comments. Thumbs up on Facebook and YouTube. Appreciate that. Of course, the number is available to you as well. I know it's easier to comment. 631-438-1768. Colorado, Erik Karlsson, and Joshua Hosang. Where should we go next? Let's talk about Colorado. I got them up here on the screen. The Colorado Avalanche are the hottest team going right now. It is unbelievable what they have been able to accomplish. Like, it really, it makes me sick almost. I'm a little sick over it. I'm a little sick. Let's go with Jonathan Bernier. Sportsnet gets the credit for this one on Facebook. He is 8-0-0 in his last 8 games, undefeated. 1.38 goals against average, and a save percentage of .958. This guy, I mean, hot is not even, it's not even a, this is beyond hot. This is friggin' ridiculous. What's more surprising to you, Vegas or Colorado? I got to be honest, at this point, Colorado. A week into the season, if you would have told me that Vegas was going to be where they are and Colorado was going to be where they are, I wouldn't have believed you about Vegas. I would have believed you about Colorado, I mean. I would have believed Vegas. I wouldn't have believed Colorado. Vegas at least had a shot at this. In Vegas, at least, there was blind optimism in Vegas. In Colorado, I mean, there was just nothing but skepticism. The whole Duchesne cloud that was hanging over them and all that business. I mean, who the hell could have seen this coming? So I started thinking about this, and I thought to myself, boy, is this Jonathan Bernier? Like, is he the sole reason why they're doing so well over there in Colorado? And as it turns out, nope. McKinnon leads 3 stars of the week. There's the story right there. Nathan McKinnon has registered 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points, pair of game-winning goals in 3 contests. McKinnon is on fire right now. McKinnon has been doing just as well, if not more hot, than Jonathan Bernier, which explains why the Colorado Avalanche are doing as well as they are doing. Not only is McKinnon 4 goals, 2 assists, and 6 total points in the last week here with the Avalanche. Like I said, a pair of game-winning goals in 3 contests. 9th straight victory for them. Their longest in the NHL. He scored the decisive goal in a 3-1 triumph over the Ducks on the 15th. Then posted a 2-1-3 night. His 8th 3-point performance of the season in a 5-3 victory against the Sharks. On the 18th, he closed out the week with a goal and an assist, including the winning goal in a 3-1 triumph over the New York Rangers on the 20th. Insane what's been going on with the Colorado Avalanche. I don't have it up in front of me, but I looked at it. Something in the last 5 or 6 games, the Avs have won every game by at least 2 goals. So it's not like they're just eking games out thanks to Jonathan Bernier. Jonathan Bernier is playing lights out, and Nathan McKinnon is playing lights out. And by the way, just to round out the top 3 stars here for the week, McKinnon 1, Connor Hellebuyck number 2, and Brad Marchand number 3, which I find interesting that Marchand was number 3 for the week, because last week, the 3 stars, it was Patrice Bergeron who was in the mix. So the Boston Bruins, outside of the Colorado Avalanche, continue to just surge here late in the season. In fact, those are the hottest 2 teams. I shouldn't say the hottest. Well, yeah, actually, those are the hottest 2 teams. Boston is 7-0-3 in their last 10. And Colorado is 9-1 in their last 10. Insanity. McKinnon has 59 points. Yeah, he does. They're playing lights out right now. The hottest team in the National Hockey League is the Colorado Avalanche. How insane is that? 9-1. 7-0-3. Boston's right there. Calgary 7-1-2. Winnipeg and Nashville both 7-2-1. Nashville currently on a 5-game winning streak. Just to break down and do some more analysis of the standings. The Philadelphia Flyers are 8-2 in their last 10, which is why they're in a good wild card spot. Who's not in a good wild card spot is the New York Rangers, who have lost 2 in a row. This is what I'm talking about. You cannot falter in that Metro division. You can't do it. Isles are 4-6 in their last 10. Pittsburgh 6-4. Like, even 6-4 doesn't help you. At 6-4, the Penguins managed to fall out of a playoff spot. The Rangers are 4-6, and they are tied with Pittsburgh, although the tiebreaker goes to them, which is why the Rangers would get in if the season ended today. I mean, it's so tight. And that's what happens. So you see Philadelphia in there 8-2, and they have a playoff spot. This season may literally, for whatever team, come down to whoever gets hot at the right moment towards the end of the season. That's why I keep shouting, now is the time to go out and acquire your trade deadline acquisitions. Do not wait until the actual deadline itself, because you want to get hot and stay hot. You want to give your team a boost. Give them the boost now, as soon as possible, because you don't want to be the ones that are left out of this. You don't want to be going 4-6 and, your opponent comes out of the basement 8-2 like the Flyers have right now, and you're out of a playoff spot. And here are the Flyers, who nobody thought was going to get in, and they're in. By the way, the Philadelphia Flyers have announced that they are going to be retiring Eric Lindros's jersey every game for the rest of the season. Ever since 88 went up to the rafters, it was just been nothing but good luck for the Flyers. So they are going to literally, Eric's coming back. Even on nights he can't even make it, they don't really care. They're just going to continue to drag that thing up into the rafters. Every night they're going to take it down. Every night, every game, they're going to put it right back up before the game. That's been a little good luck charm for the Philadelphia Flyers. That's what they're going to be doing for sure. I'm going to talk about Erik Karlsson momentarily. Let's talk about Joshua Ho-Sang really quickly. Where has Joshua Ho-Sang been? Seriously, where the hell has he been? In the last couple of weeks, we've seen the Islanders call up a whole slew of players, and 66 hasn't been one of them, and what the hell is going on? We go to the great Arthur Staple for Newsday, who I just found out is leaving Newsday for The Athletic, which is great for Arthur and maybe not so good for fans of Newsday and the Islanders. But he asked Doug Waite what is going on, and this is what Doug Waite said. The fans can be upset he's not here, talking about Joshua Ho-Sang. Quote, they see his skill, they look at the analytics, I understand that, but why did Tanner Fritz get an opportunity? Why did Steve Bernier come up right away? That is how you build your whole organization, with accountability, and there has to be accountability. There has to be. I mean, if there's ever been a clear message of, you got to listen to me, kid, or else you're not going to play. They are teaching Joshua Ho-Sang a lesson. Now, earlier in the season, I wasn't on board with this whatsoever. Now that Matthew Barzal is playing well and Anthony Beauvillier is playing well, you teach all the lessons you want. I realize this is hypocritical, and if I'm sitting in the coach's office, I'm not going to feel the same exact way. But overall, I'm just worried about this organization moving in the right direction. I still feel to this day that he's a better option offensively than, say, a Michael Dal Cole. But I think Dal Cole is only up here because they're trying to get him some experience so that they can, put him together in a package and pick up whoever they need to pick up at the deadline. I think that Ho-Sang makes his team more offensively minded. But again, 72's going, 13's going, 91's going. You can afford to teach Ho-Sang a lesson and not totally dismantle your team. By the way, if John Tavares isn't on the last year of his deal and is dangling that on their future, I wouldn't feel this way at all. I wouldn't feel the pressure to win this year. I'd feel okay about holding tight this year and doing whatever I got to do next season. But I feel like the captain of this franchise, the whole reason for this franchise, wants to see what the franchise is going to do to support him. And that's why I feel like you got to push those chips all in this year. You've got to make those moves. And that's not the time where you teach one rookie a lesson. It really isn't. Again, you don't want one rookie, totally turning the room upside down by not listening to the coach, because then if he doesn't have to listen, then everybody else will be like, well, why do I have to listen? I get it. I get how coaches don't want to lose a room. But again, there's a little bit more emphasis on this year because of where John Tavares is at. Waite also did chime in on that, saying about Joshua Ho-Sang, quote, it's a crying shame he's not playing with John Tavares when Bales goes down. We had 6 guys out. It was a perfect opportunity, and Josh would be upset with himself. Whether our view of the world is wrong or something we can argue later, but the fact is We need to be able to look at how some guys are laying it on the line in Bridgeport, and he's a healthy scratch. So to go from that to our first lineup here, where is he learning from that? That's a big part of this. Unbelievable. Islanders have not written off Ho-Sang by any means. When Snow drafted Ho-Sang 28th overall in 2014, there were several other teams that would have taken Ho-Sang that would have not taken Ho-Sang at all. The Islanders knew Ho-Sang was and is his own young man. If they wanted to wash their hands of him, they would have by now. It's a good argument. We talk about it every day, Wade said. We're not just sitting here burying the kid because we can. I like him. I like what he can bring to our team. Hopefully, if it's 2 more games where he's working, he's executing, he's got great attitude, maybe it happens. There's got to be an onus on Josh here, too. It's a good point. I will relent to that. It is a good point. Josh has to take some of this blame, too. You know, I thought he did. I thought he came up and said all the right things. Clearly, there's some behind-the-scenes stuff that we just don't flat out know about. But if that's the case, then I hope 66 is, if not listening to this, which, let's be honest, he's not. I hope he's listening to somebody telling him, get your act together. How many Tanner Fritzes have to be called up? I mean, who the hell is Tanner Fritz, for the love of Pete? How many Tanner Fritzes have to be called up before you are? Steve Bernier? It's an insult. Bernier in his heyday couldn't wear Joshua Ho-Sang's skates. No disrespect against the guy, but he was never really an offensive powerhouse. He was always a stopgap solution. I mean, what is it going to take for this kid to wake up? And I think, honestly, that this kid and the organization needs to wake up. It's like a couple. Go into marriage counseling. There should be recall counseling. AHL recall counseling in the National Hockey League. That'd be great. If there was, the Islanders should be taking part in that. Eddie, Tanner Fritz sounds like a distant cousin from Beverly Hillbillies. Yeah. Tanner Fritz sounds like somebody you make up. Like George Glass. How about that for a reference? There's a 25-year-old watching the Hockey Talk Show right now that's like, who the hell is George Glass? Brady Bunch kid, look it up. Let's talk about Erik Karlsson, damn it. It's the whole emphasis of this show. Erik Karlsson again. And you got to be all in a lather if you're a Rangers fan. Oh, my God. Rangers fans, Toronto fans, Edmonton Oilers fans. You got to be all up in a lather talking about 65 being made available. That's really what it's all about. We talked about Pierre Dorion and what he said, his idiotic comments. Well, now they followed up with Erik Karlsson, and here's what he had to say today. The all clear is, the word on deck is not worried about being traded away. He addressed the media for the first time since Pierre Dorion's comments on the captain's future. Karlsson insisting nothing has changed regarding his status with the club. Dorion said on Thursday that Wayne Gretzky was once traded, so anything is possible. Karlsson said he didn't understand why the Gretzky parallel was drawn and is surprised by the trade speculation. Karlsson said, and I quote, "When the time comes to make a decision, I will make one, but as of right now, it's not one. I have a year and a half left on my contract. I want to do everything I can to be a better player and a better leader." Teammate Bobby Ryan says he's noticed no difference in Karlsson since his potential departure became a persistent topic of speculation, saying, quote, He's handled it well as far as I'm concerned," said Ryan, drawing a parallel line between the outside noise and the good morale in the dressing room. That's just you guys. You must like to have a couple of double espressos and get the hot stove going. I don't know what times you guys go to bed. It's got to be late because I wake up next morning and hear something like, I don't even think that's close to true. I talked to the guy yesterday. Karlsson has submitted a 10-team no-trade list to Dorion as per his modified no-trade clause. Karlsson said, "We're at the bottom of the league and not doing a good job here, and my contract is about to be up here, and discussions are going to be made. It's not something I can control, and I'm going to go do the job that I feel like I have done as long as I've been here. to be successful, and whatever happens, happens. It's not going to be my decision. What do you think? I think it's not good. I think it's not good at all. I think when the captain of your franchise has to come out consistently and talk about the fact that the general manager and the owner are dropping hit, like think about, step back for a second. Look at this from a macro standpoint. Dorion has talked about trading him in a general broad sense of, well, Gretzky can be traded, so Karlsson can be traded. The owner has come out and said, look, we're a budget team. We're going to do the best we can, but obviously something has to be done. Karlsson has responded to the owner saying he's not taking a hometown discount. That caused the whole hubbub. He had to go back and walk back on those. Just look at what's been taking place here. The Ottawa organization, I hate to say it, Sens fans, but they are setting themselves up to get rid of Erik Karlsson. You don't have the general manager and the owner at two separate times in the season come out and say anything is possible. We're a budget team. Even Wayne Gretzky can be traded. They're setting the table for a trade. That's all it is. They're setting the table for a trade. Now, the growing problem in the locker room for the Ottawa Senators, from what I can tell, besides maybe not having the most confidence in Pierre Dorion, is the fact that they don't have a lot of confidence in ownership. Ownership is as much of the problem as the general manager is, as the coach is, as the on-ice playing is. It's a big thing because, you know, the team, the players, Erik Karlsson and others have to decide if ownership is going to do what they can to put the right pieces in place. Is ownership going to commit the money and okay the deals and okay the signings to put a winning team in place? And from what I understand from the buzz and the rumors that I am hearing, no, there's not a lot of confidence in ownership. There's not a lot of confidence in Eugene Melnyk that he's going to do the right thing. He's worried about an arena. You know, again, that's the other thing to worry about here. The Senators are talking about moving down to downtown Ottawa. The Senators are talking about, you know, if they don't do that, they need to make improvements to the rink, and we could have done that years ago, and maybe now's not the time. Again, there's a lot of talk. Not a lot of it is positive and moving in the right direction. Look at the talk surrounding the New York Islanders. They put all the eggs in one basket that they were going to get it done, and they got it done. Look at the talk behind the Seattle Totems. I'm trying to see if that works. There was a lot of talk that they were going to get that done. Look how lightning fast that is moving. Nobody had any doubts once the ball got rolling that Detroit was going to build their new arena. There's zero confidence in Ottawa, like there's zero confidence right now in Calgary. And even worse in Ottawa than Calgary is they got a bad on-ice product. They are setting themselves up to get rid of the franchise. Now, is Melnyk going to sell? Who knows? I know he was refinancing the organization, restructuring his debt. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold on to it or what his deal. I don't know what his personal finances are. I have no idea. But we'll have to wait and see. I do know that not a good sign. Not a good sign whatsoever. If all you're doing is setting up the table to get rid of Erik Karlsson. You trade Erik Karlsson with no sign of an indication. It is a blunt shot to the head. If there's all this talk and garbage and you trade him, everybody goes, well, we saw it coming. It's a lot easier to swallow. The thing is what can you get for him? We talked about this the other day. What does Pierre Dorion get by talking about, you know, the fact that, you know, if Gretzky can get traded, you know, what does he get from this? He maybe gets a general manager that gets overly excited and is willing to overpay for Erik Karlsson. Maybe. You know, maybe that's what he gets. he throws it out there and maybe somebody loses their mind enough to go, we'll overpay to get him. And by the way, here's the other thing. Can you really overpay to get Erik Karlsson? Can you? I mean, a lot of people at the time thought, can you overpay to get Jonathan Drouin? And apparently, yes, you can. Apparently, yes, you can. So to take a dump on my own point before I'm finished making it, there's a counter argument right there. But honestly, with Erik Karlsson, can you really overpay for him? What would be overpaying for Erik Karlsson? 2 firsts and a highly touted draft pick and a middle touted draft pick and a roster play. Is that overpaying? Because I'd pay for that. I'd pay for that in a second. Especially if I knew I have at least another year left with Karlsson and maybe even the idea of signing him longer term. Look, you can't have too much discussion about where he's going to go because July 1st is the first time that you can talk about signing him long term. But you can feel him out. You can ask him if he likes the area, if he can consider signing long term. You can talk about all that stuff. Liz, there's no overpaying if he produces. If he doesn't, that's another story. True. But consider this. Did the New York Rangers overpay Henrik Lundqvist? Right now, I think most Ranger fans would be like, meh. In 3 years, every Ranger fan is going to be like, why is this guy still here? I don't get it. Was an 8-year deal really worth it? I mean, now if he wins a cup for them in the next 2 years, everybody's going to be like, that was a good deal. At the time he signed it, we all said that was a good deal. Those last 2-3 years are going to be tough. Everybody overpays. You overpay for free agents. You overpay in trades. I mean, didn't Ottawa overpay? The weird thing is Ottawa, Duchesne, they overpaid for Duchesne, but they had another team to take half the burden for them. It was almost like they split the tab on overpaying. When you think about it, everybody kind of overpays. You don't scoop up an Erik Karlsson for bargain basement prices. What would his price be even if you scooped him up at the deadline of an expiring contract? You would still have to pay at least a first-round draft pick and a prospect for him. So where's the overpaying? Now, again, to Liz's point, if he doesn't produce like he's not producing this year, that's a good point. Now it's a whole different story. But if you believe in Erik Karlsson, you're going to give up whatever you can to get him. To the Henrik Lundqvist point, Rangers overpaid a bit, but if you want something, sometimes you have to make a bad deal. Exactly. And by the way, on a dumb fan's perspective, the Lundqvist deal is a bad deal. But every smart hockey fan knows exactly what you just said. You have got to overpay to get the players. You've got to. Everybody overpays for free agents. By the way, look at the National Hockey League 10 years ago. Everybody overpaid for rentals. Remember when Doug Weight got acquired by Carolina and they went off and won the Stanley Cup? Everybody was overpaying for rentals. The Islanders paid, a first-round draft pick and 2 first-rounders? Now, Garth Snow knew they were busts, and it looked better on paper that they were getting these players. Everybody knew, I even forget who they were. Everybody knew that those players stunk to get Ryan Smith over here. But that was a big, the big splash, overpaying for deadline acquisitions was a norm in the league for a little while. You look back over the last few years, nobody is giving up a first-round draft pick for a rental. Nobody. You know what I'm saying? So everybody overpays for things. And right now, people are overpaying for players. Way overpaying. Way overpaying for players. The cap's going up. You got a guy to sign. You're going to re-sign him. You're going to overpay. Watch the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to overpay for JVR. They're going to overpay because what's the alternative? The market sets the price, and there's too many teams with too much cap space that can go out and sign somebody like JVR to a huge deal. So the Leafs are going to have to overpay. Now, whether they do that on salary or term, look at all the players that are getting 2 more years. I use Lundqvist as an example, but look at all the players that are getting 2 more years than they really should have. Guys are being signed until they're 38, 39. Like, come on. We all know those are bad deals. We all know those are bad deals. By the same token, a lot of times you get great deals when you pay bargain basement and someone surprises. Not everybody is Michael Grabner. Let's be honest. Not everybody's Michael Grabner. Yeah, no, it's true. Your scouts have to do well, and you got to pick up some of those guys that turn out to be long-term successes. You absolutely need that. But when it comes to the stars of the game, and JVR is a good example, and here's Eddie making my point. JVR might get a hometown discount, all this and that stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know. And every franchise hopes for the hometown discount. Let me tell you something. And again, this is my own personal experience being with an NHL franchise. We all have these delusions of grandeur in our head. Do you know what happens when a team really wants a player? They call the agent and they say, what's the price? Teams don't say, we want to offer you 4 years. How much will it cost to get you here? That's what happens. And the agents set the price. And by the way, they're always crazy. And it's very rare that a team, if you want somebody, comes back and says, well, can we do it for you? Not an Erik Karlsson, not a Henrik Lundqvist, not a JVR. You know, it just doesn't happen for those guys. Your middle of the road guys, your $3 million guys, your $2 million guys, maybe you can negotiate. You know, maybe you can get a $4 million ask down to 3.5 because you got to fit something into the cap. But your captains, your star players, you're not negotiating on those guys. What does he want? Okay. We'll see if we can do it. That's it. Now, you might be able to say, look, we want to do 7 years instead of 8. You might be able to say to a JVR, look, we're going to have to fit in Mitch Marner and all these other guys. Will you take this to do it? But then he's going to just turn around and say, yeah, I'll take that much less. Give me another year then. So there's all those things that are going to come into place. But believe me when I tell you, when the market dictates, everybody overpays. It's just the way it is in sports. If that's your guy and you've got to get that guy, you will pay anything. The Islanders are going to pay anything to John Tavares. If you think John Tavares is not a $14 million player, you're mistaken. Because if he wakes up tomorrow morning and tells his agent, I want maximum ask, the Islanders will agree to it. Just like the way Connor McDavid woke up one day and said, I'd like $12.5 million. I'd like to be the highest paid player in the league. What did the Oilers say? Well, although we think you're going to be great, you're only a thing that we can sign you to. No, they said, okay. Can you wait long enough for us to print the contract? Whatever it takes. You know what the Oilers said to themselves? Thank God he didn't ask for 14 because we would have given it to him. That's just the way it is. Everybody overpays. So going into this, the Ottawa Senators have zero upper hand. Because bad teams don't get hometown discounts. Maybe JVR would get something. Maybe JVR would get something. Because if you can sit there, if the Leafs can have some success and you can tell JVR, look, give us $1 million or so space. You know what I'm saying? Because we got to get Marner, we got to get Leland, we got all these guys. We want to try and make it work. But he's still going to get a lot. He's still going to get a lot. Eddie, I'm going to go ahead and institute we're not going to talk about Rick DiPietro's contract rule on the show. That's going to be the new rule. We do not talk about Rick Rick, no DiPietro contract talks on the Hockey Talk Show. I'm going to have to step up here and make an executive decision on this. I'm not saying that Erik Karlsson is going to be traded this week, but I do find it interesting that the Senators have recalled Christy Domenico and Eric Bergdorf from Belleville. I do find it. It's just far too embarrassing, Eddie. I just can't even get into the lengths of how awful and terrible and how dumb it all was. That's what happens when your owner wants to general manage, when he should just shut up and sit in the owner's box. But anyway, I do find it interesting that the Senators are calling up these guys from the AHL for a couple of reasons. Again, not to say that Karlsson's going to go this week, but they do want to see who they have, who can stick. And if there is going to be a deal somewhere, it's good to have these guys up with the big club and learning the systems and being able to plug them in without having to worry too much about it. So these two guys are coming up, and we'll see what happens. Does this mean Mike Hoffman? Does it mean another player? Who really knows? I do know that the NHL All-Star break tends to be a big jumping off point for a lot of the general managers. They do get together and they do discuss things during this time. So the idea that we'll get a trade coming out of this weekend is very, very possible. I'm still not ruling out that we'll see something this week. We'll have to wait and see. But there is, I think there is a freeze during the All-Star game. If not official, it's kind of unofficial. Nobody really makes a trade during All-Star weekend, but they do sit down and get those deals, in order. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Fun talking tonight. Thanks so much for the YouTube comments. I apologize to Facebook. I just realized that I haven't caught up with Facebook. All right, we'll catch it. We'll pay more attention to Facebook next time. I promise you guys. On Stitcher, TuneIn, everything else, Spotify, Apple, iTunes. Thanks so much for reading and reviewing. We'll see you guys tomorrow night on the show. More trade speculation tomorrow. Wednesday seems to be a big trade speculation day. I don't know if you can, kind of the way the winds are blowing these days. Wednesday seems to be like we've figured out everything we've heard, and we've been able to kind of delineate it a little bit. Kind of Wednesday is like a huge trade rumor day. We'll do more trade rumors on Wednesday, but we haven't really been able to speculate too much on that, so we'll get into that. And I feel like there's a lot of big names that are going to be moving in the next couple of weeks, so it's kind of exciting, especially if you're one of the teams that is in there to be buyers. Will the Tampa Bay Lightning be buyers? Hedman's out, Palat's out now. They might want to pick up a third liner. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think Columbus could use some scoring help. They've been mediocre lately. They're not putting the puck in the net like they should be doing. Evander Kane might be a really good option for them now. And it would be sad, especially for like the Rangers or the Flyers, who are now in a real good position to buy, who could use a little bit more offensive help. It would be a shame for the Columbus Blue Jackets to come in and scoop the guy that really could help put a team over the top. So it's really interesting to see what's going to be coming about over the next couple of weeks. So we'll keep you up to date here on the Hockey Talk Show. As always, remember to hit that like button. Share this around on social, Twitter, Facebook. We are all over social media. You guys know our handle on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook is Hockey Talk Show. Right up there on the screen for you guys. And we'll see you.